Esports. We love to play. Since the 1980s, video games and competitive gameplay have been part of our Western culture. The video arcade, the Atari, Nintendo, PlayStation, even PC gaming are all part of this rich cultural lineage of play. We play ourselves, we watch, we even compete. What makes an esport? Well, any individual or team game that can be played on a level playing field in competition, whether that's live or online.
Still alive! Charm's gonna land onto him! Is he gonna be able to walk away? Baker is still running, still damaging, and another turn, and expansion goes down!
While there are half a dozen top-tier esports, more than 100 different titles are being played competitively around the world. Esports break all boundaries. They're played by men and women across cultures and can be played on consoles, PCs, and even mobile devices. Esports are truly a world sport. Over the last decade, we've seen interest, broadcasting, and live events eclipse those of their traditional sport counterparts. Esports are a massive draw. We love to watch them live, and we love to watch them stream. For people under 30, video games are the most popular media industry in the world, more popular than television, music, or movies. But competitive video game play is not just something we do, it's something we watch. In 2016, more people watched the League of Legends Championships than the World Series, the NBA Championships, or the Stanley Cup playoffs. That makes the top 3 sporting events in the World Cup, the Super Bowl, and a video game competition. Esports are the sport of the rising generation. Talented players, broadcasters, and managers are filling every level from professional, now to collegiate, high school, and even Pee-wee. To many, esports is the biggest world they've never heard of. But to millennials, it's the future of competition, of broadcasting, and of sport. But not the distant future, the future of today. This is esports. Cyclogen's Virtual Rankings is a ranking system for Zwift racers, built to make racing more fun for all levels of ability. The rankings are based on historical data, as well as new race results, which are uploaded immediately. Racers are divided into divisions, and points are distributed based on the strength of the field in the race. Terms are separated into months, quarters, years, and lifetime. And at the end of each term, racers are able to be promoted to a new division. High-scoring elite racers are also automatically under consideration to participate in a CVR World Cup event.
Go down the road. Alright? Don't throw your arms in the air. Don't do anything crazy. No random shit, okay?
I had my own strategy. I was actually working for you guys. So what I did at the last moment, I just pulled back. So you guys need to buy me some beers.
We're on a journey and we're going by bike. Bicycles set people free. It starts as kids when bikes set us free to explore the edges of our neighborhood. It continues into adulthood when weekend rides set our minds free from work and worry. It's the reason why still today bikes are at the heart of everything we do. Through our products, we propel bike lovers forward, be it in pursuit of personal enjoyment or peak performance. Through our business approach, we strengthen our community in Madison, Wisconsin, where we design and build the vast majority of our American-made products. Through our advocacy, we promote healthier, happier, bike-smart communities, both locally and nationally. We set out on this journey the day Sarah and Chris combined names to form Saris. So grab a bike and join us. We're on a journey and we're going by bike. Bicycles set people free. It starts as kids when bikes set
Well, hello there, everybody. You might recognize me. You might recognize my guy, Frank. We're here for the CVR World Cup Spring Regular Season. This would be week 3. This would be Zone E. This is something you definitely don't want to miss. How's it going, Frank? Things going good on your end? I always believe that's the case.
Good.
So this
I'm
is
doing well today,
the
Chris.
grand,
Hope you are as well.
It's going pretty well. Okay. Good. Things are going strong. Things are going strong. So just a couple of things you want to pay close attention to. Yeah. As we get going here, we're just a few minutes away from kicking this thing off. And let's talk just a little bit, if we can, specifically about Zone E. Zone E is where things are going on, and we've got a little bit to show you relative to that. So just got to make sure that all the audio is on. So if I can get a thumbs up that audio is on, I'll be a happy guy.
I hear you loud and clear.
Yes. Oh, good. All right. So as we're kicking through this, just let me tell you just a little bit about what's going on. A little bit of a delay in the video here. This is Zone E. This is Zone E. Let us tell you about what's coming up in this race in just a couple of seconds. Actually, we'll actually jump in and do this in just a minute. We'll tell you about the course and who you should watch after the start of this strong race. And by my account, I see 41 seconds before the start of this race. May not be quite the same for you. Not sure where you are in the world, but you can check this out on CVRWorldCup.com. Of course, over on CycleView.CVRWorldCup.com and other places. But this thing is going to kick off. It's going to get fast and furious, no doubt, as it always does. So we'll bring you the excitement as it comes down almost immediately. Now, as we pay close attention to the start, this thing is going to drop and guys are going to go. The guys that they're going to be looking for, specifically Matt Looker. He's the guy on the front of this race that's going to animate, no doubt. He's the points leader, and we're going to follow him excitedly. But there's lots of guys who want to get on his tail and take away his glory today. Normally, Mr. Looker gets to strut around like a peacock, telling everybody how good he is. And unfortunately, there's some guys who are going to try to take that away from him today. He is the overall points leader in Zone E, the most exciting race that we have. Well, maybe not the most exciting, but one of the most exciting races we have to be able to offer you. Now, his success in this race has been maybe thwarted a little by Pikenbrink. That would be the guy who wants to take away that top spot because he's sitting in the second. Now, as we kick this thing off, I don't think these fast riders are going to get separated from one another. It's mostly just, again, peacocking around, showing everybody that you're kind of the big boss, kicking some dirt, scratching some things, pecking some, I don't know, whatever you peck, corn kernels or something like that. Trying to show everybody that they are the big rooster in the pen here. But as they're out of the pen, onto the London course, getting ready for this London 8, I've got to ask my guy, Frank, what you think is going to happen in this group today?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of climbing. There's a lot of flats in between. So I think they'll try and get a selection on the first climb.
Yeah, that selection would be good. So, Frank, here's the question for you, and this is a long-winded, lingering question. The reason I ask you this long-winded, lingering question is because I'm hoping that you'll carry just a little bit here. Let me try to fix a technical end and reconnect here. We're quite a distance away, but this is twice through the London 8. We'll look at that course in just a second. But as we consider that course. This is one of those races that actually could get away early on the flat. There are runners who would like to maybe take a little of this away. But when it gets to the climb, how is the character of this race going to change? And I'll throw that over to you. All right, things are looking pretty solid here now on our end, getting lots of good as the women kick this thing off. Now, Anna Barbado is in that. We know her from, of course, the playoffs last year, the postseason. She was absolutely fantastic, and was the one kicking, trying to get that spot at the next race. We see fresh off her performance in London at the big event over the weekend. We see Carrie Conabear also in this group. Now, she would like to climb up and maybe win this spot outright, and she is certainly the one who can do it. She is the women's champion, of course, from LA, the last CVR World Cup major, and she is, boy, she's having a great season. She didn't get the result that she wanted on Saturday, but she got a great one nonetheless. Okay, the Team Vixen rider doing a nice job right there. Okay. So this is interesting as we kick this off, this women's race. One of the things that we pay close attention to, and I'll ask Frank to jump in on this at any time, that we see that this race is maybe the biggest in the entire group here, the biggest in the collection of races. I don't know if that is factual, accurate in some way, but I think so. I think it is. Frank, maybe you can tell us just a little bit more about this race proper.
This race really has two main climbs in it with a lot of flat in between. So what you're going to see, you see a pretty sedate race so far in the men's and the women, just sort of everyone sticking together. This is sort of a parade or procession to the climb. The first climb will look to make a selection of the strong men and women going up the climb. Then they will typically take it easy to the second climb. There might be some interesting tactics on that large flat if you think you're really strong and you can get away with a small break. But otherwise, it'll set up for the final climb of the day with someone typically going over the top and trying to hold a break. We've seen a couple of solo breaks throughout the day today, all the way to the end. So that's what I would look to see.
Make a selection of the strong men and women going up the climb. Then they will typically take it easy to the second climb. There might be
Awesome. Okay, so we teased it just a little bit ago, and I'll ask our director Kathy to maybe roll this right now. That would be a little bit of the discussion of Zone E, our video on Zone E. And here's what we've got to tell you. This is the course that we're going to do today, 40.6 kilometers of misery. Rode this just the other day, and it's a long way up that hill, I want to point out. This is the course, right? The London 8. Now, it's not quite a figure 8 in the traditional sense, right? It's an 8. The course is an 8, which means it doesn't go up the course the opposite way the second time. It just repeats that climb a couple of different times. And this is a climber's course without a doubt. And who do we think is probably going to have success here? Maybe Matt Looker, the guy who has done as much as anyone else so far to really establish himself within this race. And we love it. He's doing great work at the front of this thing in Zoni, but also up there, we've got to pay very, very close attention to this lady right here. She has had so much success early on in this, and has really, Ava Buchholz, of course, I'm talking about, has done her part to establish herself as the points leader. And as we look at the overall leaders here, we know that the Pike and Brink, Steve Young, Kim Little are all in this group. Kim would love to have a result today. Take away a couple of those spots. Can he pick off Steve Young, Kaj Andre? Maybe Kurt Povels will try to get up there at the top. He's been at the top of these lists before, and of course, you see the rest of those groups. So as we jump back into the race, I'll ask Frank. Really, what is the opportunity here for someone like Kim Little, racing incredibly strong, to continue to climb up this ladder? How does he have to really establish himself today to maybe climb up a couple more spots? It's really tight at the top.
Yeah, just a couple of wins in a couple of races, and he's back on top. That's how it tends to work. He's got a little ways to make up, but again, it's the best out of 6. So the first 2 could go out the window towards the end, and he could get a strong jump as we get towards the end of the season. So you got to really keep an eye on that.
You look at everybody can do this over at Cycle Data, specifically by clicking on the View Live Results tab at cycleview.cvrworldcup.com, which again, you can watch any of the riders, and we'll list some of the riders who are broadcasting today that you can check out over there. But I just did a little click to see who could possibly, depending on how this thing shakes out, finish the day in first place. Right? Who could finish the day in first place overall in the league? Believe it or not, Neil Duffy. Per Van Arenberg could also finish in the top. Liam Baird, Matt Looker, of course, he's already on the top spot. Thomas Genruch, Jeff Muse, Kaj Andre. We've talked about these guys before. What about our guy Kim Little? Could he finish at the top? Don't see him on the list, so it's hard to tell. Oh, no, there he is. Second position right now. Of course, yeah, he could finish as high as first place today. This is wide open, and somebody could get away. As we take a peek at Kim Little in his pain cave, we can get a sense of how hard this guy is working. His mouth is slightly agape. You'll notice he's glancing around nervously. He may be getting ready to commit some heinous illegal act. Not sure. But he's got Nyan Cat behind him, really rooting him on. That is one of the best backgrounds of any of the riders out there. Maybe there should be an award this year for best background of a rider. But he is using the approved and ideal in some way. Is that a young picture of Kim Little up there? Okay, well, maybe it's his son. But this is the approved and preferable frame that would be great for people to use, because doggone it, we can see you better, not squished down into the screen. But if you wanted to tune in to any of these folks, of course, you could go over to cycleview.cvrworldcup.com. You could see Stevie Young, Jeff Kuna, Lars Peikenbrink. You could see Mike Szerzinski, Kerry Conabear. Oh my goodness, there's so many people. Simon Nielsen, Sonia. As I'm looking at this list, it looks to be about 25 people. About 20 to 25 people currently streaming on CycleView, and you can pick 1, 2, 4 different folks and pull up their screen and see them. You could even cut off our commentary if you didn't want to listen to it. All right. Well, this is the big race that is happening right now, and it's an exciting one. No doubt. Getting ready on the red carpet here. We're going to come by Buckingham Palace. This is the big sprint section. Mostly, folks are behaving themselves, not doing too much to shake up the group. A couple trickling off the front, but that doesn't look like a real move by Henderson or Steven. Maybe it is. Maybe the group will stretch it out a little bit as they just passed Buckingham Palace. My mistake, coming through Trafalgar Square here, as you just saw, and then moving on a little bit further ahead to the Strand. This is an area I actually got to walk a year ago when we were in London for the CVR World Cup London event. See why it was named that? I'm sure you do. But that event was amazing. I will tell you that there is no kite there. Look at this dig by Pike and Brink, trying to maybe bridge up to this group. Is this a meaningful move? You've got Liam Baird in that group, so maybe so. Mord, his countryman, right there with him. Burkholt also. Muse also making that gap. Now, this is one of those moves. Pike and Brink is too high a standing rider. They're not going to let him go, are they, Frank? They're not going to let this form. You're going to see the rest of these boys chase this down. Straczynski is going to be in that group. You know, Piotr is in the Hall of Fame, as I'm concerned, in the CVR events. But Looker also starting to pick it up here. He's not going to let a 4-second gap go to the next guy on the list, is he?
I think they might actually, Chris, because they got that climb coming, and I would be looking to let these guys waste their legs a little bit here on the flats and bring them back on the climb. Now, what you have to worry about here is sort of keeping them dangling at about 5 to 10 seconds so that they don't get too much of an advantage.
Yeah, it looks like the group did not really have the stomach to let them drift away. Kim Little right at the tip of that sword, making sure that he rejoins the group. Now, will there be a counterattack as they come through? That's always the question. This would be a great time to do it, but maybe everybody knows what's up, right? This is going to be largely about 2 climbs. Now, if there were maybe some sprint points along the way, hint, hint to the director of this race, then maybe there'd be some interesting moments along the way. Actually, I give Frank some well-meaning grief here, because I know that that's something he's been thinking about and talking about for a long time. That, you know, especially on these races that have prolonged flat sections like the London 8, and this is a great race course, maybe one of the best in Zwift. Watch out for those poles, guys. My goodness, watch where you're going. So you're going to cause an accident. This is why we can't have nice things, Pike and Brink. Anyway, but you know, those little intermediate sprint points in there could create a little bit of an excitement, maybe some points preems. That would be interesting. But again, it does take a team of people to make sure that we're watching those appropriately. All right, as we switch over to the women's race, we see a number of things. England Red. Now, she does not use the O, you know, the null O, like she does when she spells it properly in her country. Pronounced Red. England Red, part of this group. Falk, the Vision Rider, the very successful Vision Rider on Saturday, in, of course, the big Zwift event, the crit. Carrie Conabear also in that group. That looks like they've let Bearden just get up the road a little bit with Walden and Smolik. 12 seconds is a decent gap for that group, but this is, I think, the group of note here. These are the stronger riders. There may be some tired legs after the weekend. Conabear and who else was in that group? Well, yeah, Conabear and a few others that are in this race today, raced in that Saturday Zwift Super Crit, the E-Crit, whatever they call it. It was a fun event to watch, and most of the folks that did well in that race are here. Maybe taking a day off, maybe relaxing their legs a little bit. One of the things to pay close attention to in the next little bit will be when they hit the bottom of that hill. Is there somebody in that lead group, and they're up the road, looks like by about 15 seconds now. Is there someone in that group who might decide to go off on their own? Because I promise you, Engelen and Carey, when they hit that climb, and Falk, they're going to really do a big chunk of work. This is one of the great things about these CVR races. You've got Carey in her own pain cave. Look at that little bike on the wall. Do you suppose she rides that bike? Probably not, but it'd be pretty cool if she did, nonetheless. But this is what's great about these. You can tune in and see these different riders. You can check out Carrie yourself on her own channel over on CycleView. That's CVRWorldCup.com. And you can check that out. The CycleView app lets you choose from folks like Rachel Zambrano, who we know very well. She's alive right now. Shane Lovell. Oh, Rachel's got a great setup. Neil Duffy, England Red, all streaming right now. They get extra points when they do. And it's great to see them pushing. There is Buchholz right now. Ava is the leader in the standings and in the leaders in the group here. That surprises me. I missed her name in that list, that the leader is actually in this lead group. And this is exactly what she's trying to accomplish today. England Red also streaming. But you can check any of those out. You can build your own little collection. You can watch 4 riders at a time up there. You can even cheer for them. There we go. Even more riders to check out. Team PTZ looking strong as well. Their guy, specifically, they're not who we're looking at, but their director, sportif, very proud of both of his men's and women's teams. So always out there at the events whenever possible, traveling all over the world to support them, and that's always great to see. This is quite the chase group. They are trying to get back on. That's Ana Barbado, of course, in the frame right now, trying to catch on to that lead group of Carrie Conabear. Something must have happened early that kicked them off. But as we check out Carrie's point of view, they come through the Trafalgar Square here, just a little bit behind the men, who are probably close to hitting that climb right now. We know that they're trying to chase on 24 seconds on that lead group. Okay. Now they've hit the climb properly here, and Pike and Brink on the front of this group. Chocolate Daddy, not sure who that is, but I bet you Pike and Brink is about to take over your world, steal your chocolate right out of your back pocket. Okay, now not far behind him, 1 second back, Matt Looker, who is the leader, on his tail. Piotr Jasinski, the Team Poland rider, and Team Poland always represents in this race. Wonderful to see. They hit this chunk of the climb. Now, fast riders can do this in just a handful of minutes, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then there are some slower folks like me who, you know what, if I can get 10 minutes, I'll be really, really happy. You know what, use that power up if you have to. The power up that Kim is wearing right now looks to be his muse, his son, and he hits that, and what his rig does is say, "Come on, Daddy, go, Daddy. Why are those men going faster than you?" Okay, Kim Little right on Bjorkstad's wheel, chasing him up the hill. Pike and Brink not letting him get very far up the road. They are tight together in this group. And there he is right now, Pike and Brink, Lars himself. He has a few sponsors, outdoor, indoor. Very exciting. Zwift Riders Germany, one of his indoor sponsors. My goodness, makes me think that I need more sponsors, Frank. As we hit this climb, no one has really blown it up completely, but these guys are all really at that limit. They're just trading punches here. It looks like Kim Little is very serious about getting over this climb first, and you can tell just by the numbers adding up on the left side of that right column that guys are starting to fall off the back. Piotr Jasinski now a full second back. Muse a second back. Matt Looker even with this group, but it looks pretty painful. Chocolate Daddy on the front and off the front. I don't think they're paying close attention to him. That's not a name that'll get you points in the CVR, and it certainly won't get you a win. Kim Little, our de facto front of the race guy, but immediately taken over. Moore decides to push over the top. Get on that wheel, Kim Little. Boy, he just dances on the pedals like a ballerina. Pretty ballerina. Floating in midair now, we see Muse himself sweating, headband on. Well, that looks more like a skull cap happening right there on his head. You saw it here first. The skull cap is making a comeback. All right, but Muse just trying to stay with this collection. It's a washing machine. Everyone just rotated back to the front. More maybe like teacups at Disneyland. You can't tell what the front end of this thing is because someone keeps swinging into that spot. There may be just as much vomiting on this climb as there is on the teacups too. All right, Szerzynski reconnected with this long line. Yes, there's a second between him and Kim Little, but he can see them. No one is going to escape at this point. If you came over the climb, top of the climb right now, this would not be enough of a separation to get you off the back. You could cover this distance in the descent, especially if you had a couple riders around you. But Kim Little is going to be the guy who comes to this climb first. I predict he's going to get over the top before anybody else. Mord, Bjorkseth, all just trading turns at the front with him. But Lars Peikenbrink, the guy who really, really wants to get some separation on Matt Looker, is really trolling the front. He is making a pain face right now, and that is not pleasant for our guy. But he's strong. He's holding 7 watts per kilo. That is ridiculous. I hope we get to shake this young man's hand someday, maybe at one of these events. He's really looking like he wants that invitation to get there. He wants to be able to come to the next CVR World Cup event, wherever it may be. Happens to be in Canada this time. That's a trip you can make, my friend, but you got to win this race to do it. But Kim Little, who got an at-large bid last time, shows why he deserves to be invited to these events and the Zwift events. Okay. As we're going to jump in real quick with the women, as you see, England Red from Team Fearless pedaling right in the middle of this group. Things are going to start to come unhinged really quick. We're not going to see these 9 riders in the chase group together at the top of this climb. I predict a group of 4 will emerge. Who will make it? Probably Kerry Conabear. I would even guess Styler, Team Vixen in this as well. England Red, I believe, will probably be in that group. She's proven herself before, has been very, very strong in previous outings. But who else? They're trying to catch Bearden and Wilkinson. And, of course, the leader on the road right now, Ava herself. And we mentioned her at the top of the show. She's the one that everyone wants to beat. We don't see her in the lineup right now because she's got a couple of riders in between her. But we're going to start seeing Walton maybe and Bearden start to fall off the back here. Well, maybe not. She's holding 4 watts per kilo. That tends to go uphill faster than 3.7 watts per kilo, which seems to be the average of this group. If they want to make up time, they're going to have to hold a half a watt per kilo on average higher than the group in front of them if they want to catch them by the time they get to the top. That tends to be an accurate number. If you want to catch somebody who's about 30 seconds ahead on this climb, you got to put in a half a watt per kilo more. That is math, ladies and gentlemen, new math, in fact, which we'll get to in the after show where we'll talk about new math. Okay, Kerry Conabear now 3 seconds ahead of England Red. I predicted she'd stay with this group. It looks like she's getting dropped like a bad habit, and that is not something she wants to see. This is a bad spot for her. She's got a couple of wheels in front of her, but she has really hit that red line, 186 beats per minute on the heart rate. My goodness, that is an awful lot. Well, we've got Martin, we've got Staten, Kingsley just up ahead of her, but Conabear now part of that group with Asperheim moving away. The rider from Norway leading the charge with Kerry just up the road a little bit more. This is going to be some pain for these folks. Now, as we consider what's happening maybe at the front end of this climb, what's happening with the men up the road, we know that there was a group just a moment ago, 7 riders, 8 riders strong, chasing on the front there, and it had all the people you would expect. Peikenbrink. It had Matt in there as well. I'm talking about Matt Looker, the leader on the day, coming into this with the most points. Also in that group, Kim Little and the others. As we get a quick check at Ava Buchholz, right in there with Falk, the Vision rider, who had such a great result on Saturday. All right, back to the front of the men's race. They are already over the top of this thing and descending like crazy people. Boy, they got there quicker than I thought. That is really, really fast. But it's a big group, as we predicted. Not a lot going on in that huge group. Szerzynski, Egner, Little, all in that group. Egner is not a name I know as well. Going to have to check out what's happening on the on that list there to see where that rider is. Very interested to see what's going on in these live results. Liam Baird also in that group. Michael Durr, as I mentioned before, the German rider Thomas Genrusch, Kim Little, Morten Vang, Neil Duffy makes that lead group as well. And Matt Looker having some interesting trouble. Does not look like he actually made the cut This could be huge for the men here. I don't want to sound alarm bells, but Matt Looker is your leader on course here. And if he doesn't win this thing today, actually, if Lars Pembroke finishes in front of him, Matt is going to fall out of that top spot. And that is a scary, scary place to be. You do not want to let Pikenbrink get off the front of this thing. You've got to beat him to the line, because if he comes across and there's a few spots in between you, he'll take your spot. And he could fall even further. Right now, if this finished right now, Matt Looker would be in second place overall, and he would lose that spot to the young man Pikenbrink. Okay, as we glance here again at the ladies, the racer view. You can check this out at Cycle View. Check out Cycle View. You can pick the racers you want. Carrie is trying to fight back with this group to catch Falk and the other riders, but they are not doing the same pace that those women are doing on the front. Maybe we've got Carrie at a high spot of training, but Ava Buchholz is tapping out a tempo right with them. She's going to get great points here. If this were to finish right now, it looks like, well, there's quite a few people in this group, right? Mary Wilkinson, she is climbing up the ladder, started in 9th position today. Ava Buchholz in that first position. Looks like she's going to be able to hang on. She's holding 7th overall right now. Kristen Falk, who we mentioned before, she's also streaming on Cycle View. She started in 8th position today, but can finish in 1st overall. So can Amber Smolnick. So can Jillian Bearden. So can Lindsay Styler. So many women with the potential. Carrie Conabare could actually still finish at the top of the list today, but she's got to make back what looks to be about 45 seconds to the rest of that group. That's quite a bit, but you'll notice that that she and the group she's with are tapping out a big tempo, and you can see the discomfort on her face. She's going to grab some water. She's going to towel off a little bit, try to get just one more wheel up the road. Can we pull back 10 more seconds before the descent, 15 more seconds before the descent? That is what you're aiming for. Bearden in retreat, coming back to this group. It looks like she may get caught by the group ahead, just behind her, with the Vixen rider, Styler and Conabare in that group. Looks like the Team Fearless rider may get caught. Now, Holmson, we mentioned just a little bit ago in the women's race, also doing a nice job, but she is not actually listed in that women's A group, nor that B group, nor that C. She may be a new rider. I'm not spotting her on the list, but you can check out the list too over on Cycle View. You can see the current standings just like I can. You're like, this guy is so smart. He knows all this stuff about the riders. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm not reading it. Not at all. Okay. You can see the pain on the face right near Kristen Falk in her pain cave. Really, really uncomfortable. Now, as they come up for this last kicker over the top here, she's got to do everything she can to stay with Ava Buchholz, who is the leader both on the course and in the hearts, right? In the hearts. Oh, maybe not. Buchholz, the German rider, she is the leader. Wilkinson right there with her, and they're going to hit this big kicker. My guess, they're going to descend together. The men now on the flat just ahead. I think these women may catch some men that left with that A group. I think they're just a little up the road now. They won't see them because they're in a different pen, as it were, a different instance. Maybe not a different instance. They're just seeing the world without the men. As the men are not seeing anybody else who's on the course today. But Kim Little now just a couple of seconds behind Mord and Garcia. Well, excuse me. Mord is the leader here. Kim is trying to catch him. Those others are just watchers on course, and Kim Little just pulling him back just a little bit further. Is anyone going to take him seriously? It looks like Pikenbrink is, and is going to try to catch on. Edgar catches his wheel. Pikenbrink will now close down that little distance. He's only 2 seconds behind. Burkholt right behind him. This is a long string of islands that these guys are going to want to climb to. But what may have resulted in this is some guys are either going to get shelled off the back. Bergang, it looks like he's off the back, and Whiteley also off the back. I do not see a name in here, and this could get real scary real quick. You know the name I'm talking about? I'm talking about our leader, Matt Looker, who is now, it appears to be about 38 seconds behind the leaders of this group. 38 seconds behind the leaders. This is the way it shows in the slightly delayed live results that you can check out on CVRworldcup.com. That would be the cycleview.cvrworldcup.com to watch these riders, but you can also click on the link that'll take you to live data. And of course, that's the Cycle Data app. All right, back in with Kim Little right here, this trio at the front. Now, it's not going to stay a trio for long because this is a hungry bunch. They are trying to catch up with this group. But it looks like Kim Little would like to venture off on his own. I think he would like to get a little bit more separation between a couple of these riders on the flat when he thinks he can do it. He knows he can climb pretty well, and he wants to kick maybe Peikenbrink off the back. Veng, who is already off the back, may be able to also be one of those that he'd like to get rid of. Peikenbrink just kind of hanging on. Not sure who this chocolate daddy is. Your name's not going to work for us, buddy. So sorry. But Kim Little is the guy here. There's some pain going on right there. That is Matt Looker streaming from his pain cave with a nice little posse. That's right. He rounded up the boys and said, let's go get them, boys. Let's go get that group. I actually don't know that he speaks that way. But what if he did? What if Matt Looker spoke that way? He said, come on, boys. We can't let them do that. They insulted your mama. We're going to get up the road and we're going to catch them. But it's right about 36 seconds to that chase group with Szerzynski and Vang in there, and then a total of 50 up to that group with Kim Little in it. Now, they can make up a lot of that time on the climb, but they can't leave it until then. They've got to punch this little puncher they're about to come up to. They can't let more time get away. Now, time is not a factor in the overall season standings, right? Somebody could get 5 minutes on you, and if you still come in second, you get the next group of points. There's no big penalty for time. But he can't let all of these guys finish in between him and the winner if he wants to be able to control this for the season. Matt Looker got caught in a tough move. Now, this is the Kim Little group that we're watching closely here. There's Matt again. We see him now a minute behind Peikenbrink. I think that gap is growing. He's sitting at 3.5 watts per kilo. His heart rate is high. His cadence has stopped working, but I think we can guess it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so he's tapping out. I'm going to guess about 100 or about 88 per minute. That looks to be pretty good. You can play your own copy of the home game and tell us how many that is on the different social media locations. There are lots of folks watching us in lots of different places, and we are thrilled to have you. So thank you so much for joining us on, of course, CycleView, on Mixer, on Facebook. Thank you for joining us on MySpace. Thank you. You're now one of my top 5 friends on MySpace. We're not really using MySpace. I just made that part up. It's just, silly stories. Silly stories indeed. All right, Kim Little on the
interesting
on the
tactics here, Chris.
Yeah.
On the men's race. You've got this break, and I think they're going to look to keep this break. As I said, sort of at the start, in between those two climbs, you can get a tactical break happening when people are sort of expecting it to go easy. You've got that. You've got Looker in the break, not in the break, out, caught out. And so I think these guys will look to press as you've got a couple of guys high in the point standings off the back here.
Yeah, they made a terrible mistake, I think, of a Matt Looker. I'm not sure. I think that separation happened when we jumped back to check out what's happening in the women's race. And now they're desperately trying to climb back on. But we can't even see up the list, and neither can he, who's the closest, because Delabote, the WBR racer, is really at the front of that group with, Bergang and those others. And so you can't see who's up the road. But I think that gap continues to grow. And for those who choose to check it out on CycleView, you can see those numbers there as well. A moment ago, it had grown to maybe not a phenomenal number, but a much, much higher number. It was like a minute and 8 seconds, I believe, just a moment ago on the Cycle Data app. As I glance at it now, 1:15 to that chase group. Now that's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah, we've got an interesting thing happening here in the men's race because the break has broken. And we're going to see Kim. Looks like he's going to try and bridge at this point to those 3 guys that he let sort of go off the front. And what you're going to see here is the other guys want to respond to that. So you had a mini break out of the break. And now Kim is saying with a little panache here, I'm going to go punch up there, see if I can leave the rest of you guys behind. Looks like, Chocolate Daddy, who is obviously not in the league because that's not a real name, will look to follow that move and maybe bring some of the other guys back. So what you're going to see here is Kim's desire to reach out to these couple of guys, probably going to pull everybody back. But now what you might see is the three guys at the front work together and really make these guys work hard. I'm going to check Chocolate Daddy because I don't like that. Of course, he's got a pretty good heart rate going there, so we'll assume he's real for the moment.
That would be an unfortunate real name, though. I mean, honestly, really. I mean, you got to look at your parents and say, really?
Looks like you got Mord attacking again. Looks like he's going to try and get away with just one or two people. I expect Kim to sort of give this one a whirl, and maybe we can look at Kim's view here. And we're going to hop back here a little bit in time and see him do the catch, sort of the replay, and then sort of watch as he sort of develops some energy and looks to push this out, with these guys as well.
I love this view. First of all, I think he's right now winning the selfie cam game with Nyan Cat in the background there. First of all, let's make sure that those are some end of season awards. Best background. And you're right, as he catches on here, trying to catch up to Mord, this was just a few moments ago. They will be able to see one another as they pass through here, right? They'll be able to look over onto the right side of the course. They'll be able to see the groups chasing, just like in a road race where you circle back or a time trial. They'll be able to see where those other riders are and be able to sense that gap. But one of the things that it can do is it can breathe new life into a chase group to make them think, oh my gosh, they're just right there. We can go get them. And but it looks like the looker group is not really being led by anyone. That gap now grows to 1 minute and 21 seconds to the chase group. And as we look at this nearly real time for those folks, minute 21, 22 seconds, they're all back together in this group. Bjergseth and Mord got off the front. Kim Little bridged back up to them. And as you suggested, everyone else went, well, all right, if Kim's going, I got to go, because he's so dang high in the standings. It's very possible, Frank, that Kim Little, if he finishes in the position that he is in now, he could finish today having moved from fourth to second position. But here's what's interesting. Lars Peikenbrink, as far back as he is, right now, if nothing changed in the standings, he would move into first place. Peikenbrink into first place at the end of this today. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's very impressive, and we're going to check on the ladies here just for a second. Yes, and what we've got on our number one watcher here is sort of the chase group, and what we've got on our number three watcher is three people very similar to the men's race here who have made the break, gotten a little bit, a considerable amount of time over some of the chasers. And so you look for the winner to come from these three ladies today. Falk, and we'll get a view of her off of 7, what she's looking like. And you've also got, I think Falk's actually on 9, my mistake, but you've got
people very similar.
Yeah, we get Buckholz.
A lot of people keep track of. You got Eva off of on 7. And so it'll be interesting to watch them. It's always great. A little bit of suffering going on here. Eva's looking a little bit more in control. And Kristen looks like she's prepping for the big dig here up this next climb.
Oh, it's a coming. Mary Wilkinson doing a really nice job. Started the day in 9th position, has held this main group, and looks to move up in the standings significantly. Ava Buckholz and, of course, Kristen Falk, the other two riders in that. Ava, just wherever she finishes today, will probably still hold on to that first spot. But, of course, she has to finish with this lead group. But Kristen Falk also moving up dramatically. She had a great weekend. But she has been racing some big races of late. This women's field is pretty exciting. So I got to ask you this. You've gotten a lot of conversation from the CVR LA event specific to women's cycling. And I think right now, before it gets a little bit crazy, only 5 kilometers of pre-trial remaining. What's going on, Falk? Oh, that is some scary stuff. Hopefully that's not her. No, that's not her. That's not her. That's a watcher. My mistake. But the women's cycling, women's professional cycling is in a real spot of bother, to borrow again from that euphemism. Because there's not a lot happening in the women's pro scene as far as big races. Certainly, it's much harder to make a living. Now, I have 2 dear friends, one more dear than the other, but 2 friends nonetheless, who are both former professional women's cyclists. One of them, 3-time gold medalist, Kristen Armstrong. She is a local here. We have ridden together. She kicks all of our butts. That doesn't surprise you, but she is wonderful. She and I've spoken. I've ridden with and interviewed her on the ride previously. The other is Jen Halliday, who retired a few years ago after a couple of pretty severe crashes. And that professional women's scene was always tenuous. It never really came to be. But here's all this lead up to this question. Because of women's indoor cycling, it's created a new framework for actually winning real prize money. Can you talk a little bit about some of the conversation that's been happening over the last couple of weeks since CVR World Cup LA?
I think we're definitely making the impression that the women can and should earn as much as the men. They're very exciting to watch, very exciting racing in CVR World Cups, and it's really starting to put the pressure on the UCI and professional racing to up their game as well. We're starting to offer much larger prize purses than the UCI Pro Tour, and we expect that'll shake things up.
And do you think that's going to attract some of these strong riders more to indoor events like CVR World Cup LA and CVR World Cup Vancouver and these events?
Without a doubt, we're already seeing world-class athletes show up at the events, and we expect that trend to continue. We saw Lionel Sanders, we saw Claudia Baring out. You see Lucy Collins racing in an earlier race today. She is finished second at Ironman also last year. So you're going to just see that happening more and more. Our next prize purse will exceed the one in LA, and so that's just going to keep building and building. And as that builds, we're going to get more and more people. We're about to get to the start of the climb.
The climb of the men's. We definitely do not want to miss that. The things are going to get crazy here. Kim Little positioning himself to be able to crack this sucker wide open. Now is when we see who's got what and how much they've got. Here's the chase group with Szerzynski, Matt Looker trying to pull these guys back. But the other guys are quite a ways up the road. But I think that Matt Looker maybe not able to win this thing today, probably not able to catch Peikenbrink, could recover quite a bit of what he might lose on this climb if he can pick off anybody who's shelled. What he's got to hope for is that a number of folks in that lead field blow up completely, and he can climb back. Delabut might be the guy who's going to pull him up to that. Szerzynski might also help him with that. I'm not seeing a lot of Team Poland surrounding Piotr today, which may be because of this event, or maybe they're already in another spot off the back. I'll have to scan the list here in a moment, but they're going to hit this climb hard, and things are going to go crazy. As we look at the riders in this lead group, we know that their heart rate has been pretty darn high. Now, not visible on this list are their overall weights, but we do know just from looking at it, there's some slight fellas in this group. There he is, Lars Peikenbrink, not real huge, or tends to be a little bit smaller guy. That's fine. No criticism, bro. You're good. But Kim Little putting out the big watts too as they try to catch on to the rest of this group. He's coming off the front there. He's chasing a ghost of Frank Garcia. Frank Garcia used to be this great rider that raced a whole lot. And he's trying to chase him down right now. And Egnar in there as well. Mord chasing on just right there. This is going to be a washing machine for a little bit, guys, just cycling to the front. The mixer, maybe that's the better way to describe it. It's just a mixer. And we don't know who that guy is, but they know that he's not in the points. They're looking for someone of note to chase. Now, the only reason you might try to chase a chocolate daddy is to maybe try to maybe catch a little bit extra climb and draft and break some guys off the back. But already Burkhold off the back. Matt Looker hits the bottom of that climb, shrinks it to 52 seconds. That's what we would expect as the guys slow down, as they start going uphill. He's going to close that distance a little bit. But leave him. Kim Little types, leave him. Absolutely right. Chocolate Daddy is we don't know who he is or how strong he is or what he's doing. Let him go. Let him go. That's my favorite thing to say in a big group right here. All right, Kim Little tries to follow again. Bjorkstedt. This has been the group at the front for quite some time, and we're seeing the others start to decay off the back. A little entropy happening in the group. That's science, ladies and gentlemen. That's the gradual molecular breakdown of all things. Entropy. Entropy. It'll be on the test. All right, Kim Little showing no entropy. He's showing that he's actually getting stronger. He might, in fact, be an Avenger. Bjorkstedt, the wheel just in front of him. Mord, the wheel just behind him. Egner starting to retreat a little bit, but doesn't want to let it happen. Hanging on to that 1 second with all he's got. Peikenbrink trying to close the gap and comes back to the wheel of Kim Little, but Mord up and over the top. This may be the death nail for Peikenbrink because these guys are going to go a little bit faster, and you are just dangling. Look at his posture in his own camera there. That tells me that he is about to break. Those are physical signs. I can see them, and I bet you can too. All right, Frank, my question to you, as these guys start to tear here, we're seeing that these guys are falling apart very, very quickly. Kim Little keenly in that collection, making his way all the way to the top of this, I would imagine, with Morden Bjorkstedt. No one's going to break away. Peikenbrink now retreating. He's now 4 seconds back. He's not hanging on with these guys. He's going to lose some time, and that maybe opens a little bit of window for Matt Looker to try to catch on to him. But these three guys are going to come up and over the top of the hill together. Bjorkstedt, Mord, and Little. That is my prediction. What is yours, Frank?
I think that's accurate. You look at the heart rate here for Kim, down at about 164 beats per minute. Still's got a little room to go here. I think Mord and the other individual they're gonna try and leave Kim behind because Kim's gonna outsprint him. I think almost for sure. So I think Kim's setting up and looking for the win, and they're gonna have to try awfully hard to drop Kim here, but looks like they're going to give that a whirl. Let's check the heart rates here a little bit. We've got 180, and we've got 170, and we've got Kim at 163. But he's got to be attentive. Kim's been doing a lot of racing. I imagine there's quite a bit of fatigue in the legs for him.
Now, here is something really interesting. So Lars Peikenbrink, despite the fact that he is now 13 seconds off the back of this lead group with Mord, Little, and Bjorkstedt, is that if he finishes in this position, which is more likely than not, he'll be number one in the points after today. Kim Little moving from fourth to second, most likely. But Matt Looker has actually recovered a number of positions. And if he finished in the position he's sitting right now, 10th overall, he would still finish third in the overall points at the end of today. They are that tight. This is such a great season. So exciting. Okay, as we look at Looker climbing the climb right here, he's pulling back two of these guys that just got shelled off the back. Remember when Egnar threw up their red flag and says, "I'm done," or white flag? And Burkhold, also the same thing. Team Vision rider. Doving, don't recognize that name. I think he was in this group as well. But Piotr Szczynski now just a second above, trying to pull these guys back, maybe get just a couple of extra points on these other guys. Szczynski had a great season last year, but he finds himself in a really tough spot. Entered the day 22nd overall in this, and I think it was because he missed a race. Now, that'll equalize as we get closer to the end of the season, but Yukio Burkhold just up ahead of him on this. Now, back to Kim Little, as he is powered by the Rainbow Pop-Tart Kitty, he is the guy who's probably going to come away with this today, as you mentioned, the sprint finish. Mord, though, was the fastest climber up this hill, and he's got the polka dots to show. Bjergstad also. These guys are going to come across together. Is there an opportunity maybe to shell one of these guys as they come up and over the last big 10% kicker at the end of this little segment up here? Do you think that that's something they could do, Frank? I mean, could you maybe kick a Bjergstad off the back if two of you just went crazy hard?
You could, but I imagine they'll all be attentive. You had a little rest going up this hill, so you really have to have an unattentive rider in order to make that happen, because typically you've got enough to do this punch hill and climb back on a wheel and not get left behind. And you kind of see that happening here. All orange numbers, all going hard. The terrain of Zwift dictating that's going to happen. Everybody knows this is a place you can get dropped, and if two people get away, then you'll see that. Now you see here a little bit of a gap opening up, but you see the two behind not panicking there. And the reason for that is, quite simply, they know they're going to pull him back very easily with 2-on-1.
Very, very true. Now, just a little bit down the mountain, the clock has already started ticking for Doving and Szerzynski and Looker, who's now 2 minutes behind this lead group. They are trying to get as much time as they can back, but that gap is going to continue to grow. Look at all of these people gathered to see this amazing race. I'm not surprised to see it. So many people gathered around. It's wonderful to see. Looker finds a way to get to the top with the rest of this group. He, of course, is the Race WBR rider. Lots of his compatriots are going to be very happy for his performance today, despite the fact that he's not in that lead group. We would love to be able to tell you that they pulled back all of this time on the climb to Kim Little and others, but they did not. It's still 2 minutes to that next group. Now that'll shrink a little bit more as the little group gets to the bottom of the hill. Kim Little is his real name, isn't it? I believe that there was some question about from Eric Min whether that in fact was true, but I believe that's what his parents named him. So, as they chase down the hill here, the others will flatten out. The overall time or speed will drop while the others accelerate. So maybe they'll pull back a little bit of time, but we can expect about a 2-minute gap, I think, at this point at the bottom of the hill between that lead group. Peikenbrink now even further behind that chase group than he was just a little bit ago. A full minute. He was with them at one point on the climb before getting disconnected, but he's still in a great spot. He probably knows. He's probably got teammates in his ear saying whatever you say in German, which means no. It's 9, actually. I do know that one. I took German in high school. But telling him he doesn't need to go that hard, that's all he's got to do is just to hold this position, and he's going to get the points that he needs. He'll come in likely overall, probably in the top 4 or 5 riders. Looks like he could finish second overall. Ovind Bjergstad is the only other rider in that lead group that can finish in this high bracket, despite the fact that there are some other riders in there. We continue to call Mord's name, but I believe, is he a B rider? No, he's not a B rider. I don't see him on the list here, but that doesn't mean that he's not. I just don't spot him. So Bjergstad definitely in the standings.
If we look at the front here, we've got Kim with a 137 heart rate, Mord with 145, and Bokershoff. I'm gonna have to pass to you on the pronunciation of that. But what I see here is definitely a low heart rate for Kim. He's been doing a lot of racing, very fit. So you saw Lionel Sanders can't get his heart rate very high at CVR World Cup LA either. And it can mean two things: that you're super fit. Can also mean you're getting a little bit fatigued, and that's something to watch out for. But it looks like Kim is in a really good position to score a lot of points today and gain a considerable number of points in the league, because you've got some big gaps here and you've got other sprints to happen. So a great move by Kim today. Really focused racing by him. I think it was patient patient racing as well, but with a little bit of that, great Kim sort of sizzle, right? He just doesn't sit in all the time. He does some attacks. It's one of the reasons he's a favorite to watch on Zwift, because he is just the way that he races is just great. He's not like me. I just sit in and sprint at the end. People get all upset, but he has a little bit of flair when he races.
He does. He does. Okay, so I've just checked in. I believed it was even Björkseth, but I checked in with the Nathan Garrett pronunciation, and it's Plujmers. Okay, here we go. Kim Little pushing on the front. Mord trying to catch on to his wheel. He's getting the red numbers. Björkseth is in the lead here. Now, there's quite a bit of runway left before these boys are going to take flight, but they're trying to make sure they're in the right position. This may be a little bit too much for Mord here at the end. He's going to have to close some distance, and then he's going to have to sprint, and that really favors Kim Little, who you might notice is wearing a little bit different jersey. It's the Union Jack on his back, which means he's the fastest man in Great Britain, and now he starts to dig. He pushes a little bit closer. Those red numbers come up. He's got a wheel to catch onto, and that looks like Morty's going to try to catch onto. Little is going to be able to come around him at the end. He's going to use that little slingshot. If he's got enough runway, kick around him at the end, and this is his kind of race. They're going to come to the line neck in neck. Hard to see. I think Kim Little might have edged him. We'll find out in a minute. These are not yet official, but these guys definitely kicking to the line. Now, we'll talk about this in a second. We've got some flagged riders in this group. If we were to look at this, there's the big sprint again. We'll look at it from Kim's point of view. Mike Ford is the other name who's coming across as Mord, which is not the way we do it in this league. I'm not sure if he'll get the points. Kim Little's position. He sees Mord come around him at the end, and then just digs. Look at that look on his face. That passion, that Pop-Tart driven excitement. He kicks around him and does come around him right at the end. Very interesting the way it looked versus the way it showed up in the Littles. We've got a bump in the overall standings as far as it looks on the board here. You can check that out yourself. Kim Little comes in first in the race. He finds himself in second position currently overall as we wait for the rest of these folks to finish. Even Björkseth just behind him, or as some people pronounce it, Plujmers. Jeff Muse chasing as well, Piotr Szczynski in this chase group, and they just came across the line. Big sprint finish for those boys as well. Back to the climb. We're going to take a look at the women. This is where it's really heating up. But the Wilkinson Buchholz group is in a very different position than we saw the last time we checked in. Mary Wilkinson appears to have really escaped the rest of that group. Put nearly 30 seconds on Eva Buchholz from Germany. She's trying hard to catch her, but this seems to be the climb that she intended to do. Carrie Conabear clawing back slowly but surely, still in a great spot in the point standings. Of course, there are 8 weeks of these races, not something that you can just win or lose in a single day. But when we check in with the women here, we find Mary Wilkinson at the front of that group. Eva Buchholz, Kristen Falk, Amber Smolnik. You've got Sammy Holmsen there. Carrie Conabear sitting in 5th position overall on this climb. Now, Falk is unhinged a little bit, right? She lost the wheel of Buchholz. Falk, of course, raced on Saturday in that great event. She may be a little bit fatigued. Getting rest in mid-season has got to be tough, because you've got these folks just racing all the time, participating in this and the other series. This certainly the one maybe with the most upside currently. No offense to giving away trainers. I think those are dang cool. I could probably use a better one. But the opportunity to go to one of these live events and win lots and lots of money has got to be driving some of these racers to race even more than they would. So what happened to Falk here? I'm not sure of her climbing prowess in general, Frank, as Mary Wilkinson comes across the top with a PR of 6:34. That's impressive. But Falk, maybe a little bit fatigued today. Maybe you can see a little of it on her face.
Yeah, I think so. And you got a couple of climbs here. They made some breaks. I think I would go with a little bit of fatigue. Watched her in the ECRIT, the KISS ECRIT series this weekend. She looked quite a bit more comfortable in that race. But the excitement, the adrenaline that you burn, doing just absolutely fantastic in that event. And then sometimes depends on what you do the next couple of days. Did she recover properly, and sometimes that'll lead to a little bit of fatigue, and it looks like she's got a little bit of fatigue in her today. So I think that's probably one of the main things. And of course, let's not take anything away from the two ladies in front of her, who are obviously feeling really good and killing it up the hill. So probably a combination of those things makes for a change.
It does, and Wilkinson seems to have gotten away. The YRC rider from Great Britain, Buckles, chasing, but that is not going to impact. Unfortunately, well, it's not going to impact at this point any part of her season because she is in great position. We do have Sonia Inslee, who is showing up in the overall standings here for the women. Maybe just a little bit of trick of the eye, or the watcher, as it were, showing her in front when she may in fact be behind. But Ava Buchholz, if she finishes in this position and she is starting the descent right now, will maintain her points lead, actually grow it. But the position of Carrie Conover, who's 6th overall on the course today, despite the time gap, will keep her in 2nd place overall in this field. Now, she actually came in tied for 1st with Buchholz, but 2nd is a great place to be with only 4 points separating these two riders. This is something that is going to be followable, right? That's a word, right? We can use that as a word for the rest of the season. Julian Bearden, also another rider in Anna Barbado, who did get shelled off the back there because of the number of starts and the streaming that they've been doing. They are going to probably remain in this top group, but Sonia Whiteman, is going to be climbing. Kristen Falk, definitely, even though she's probably going to finish 3rd on the course today, is going to climb from 8th to 6th position. Lots of climbing the ladder. Mary Wilkinson also climbing the ladder. Lindsay Styler also climbing likely from 11th to 8th position overall. Amber Smolnik, also climbing from 12th to 9th position likely overall into the top 10. This could be fabulous as the day rolls on. Okay, so as we get ready for the finish here, and we're going to follow through to make sure that we at least have a podium that we can discuss. Let's talk about what's coming up the rest of the day, Frank. We've got another race that kicks off here in just a little over 2 hours, and that is the F race. And then we follow maybe with the granddaddy of them all another 5 hours from now. That would, of course, be the big G category race. What types of matchups are we looking at in those events?
F is a fairly light zone. I think we'll look to see Frank Deal and how he performs. I think he rides in F. I need to check that. And then we also have,
he does.
of course, we'll have Scotty in G. Always kicking it there. I think you've got in F, I guess, leading the series. You've got David Talbot, and you've got Matthew Brandt. Rounding out the top 3 positions there. And then you have Lauren McMurdy and Cheryl Muldoon. Now, I think Cheryl's probably actually got the lead in. She looks like she's behind, but she's got the highest average points. She's raced 1 week less than Lauren. But Lauren sits atop the standings. But I think you've got Vicky Whitelaw, who I think is a former UCI pro, if I'm not mistaken, who won last week, isn't streaming. Maybe we'll be streaming this week. But if she starts streaming, she's probably got the inside straight to victory not an inside straight. She's already got the full house. Potentially.
Right.
Everybody else is going to have to, really look to perform well. Maybe team up and do some team racing against her.
Yes.
And then, we've got Scotty always at the top. We've got Big E, Eric Sorensen, and then Ryan Corliss.
Yep.
And I think
Corliss,
indeed. Yeah, so it's gonna, some fun stuff happening there on the female side in G. You've got Ellison Kubuto, who had a great sprint finish last week. Stephanie Ossenbrink,
yeah, mm-hmm.
and Rhonda Stickle, who really stomped on the pedals last week, and took the victory. And so I think she's got something out there to prove. You've got Katrina out there,
yes.
who, strong sprinter, and her thing is just to stay with the group. Might be a tough week for her with all the climbing. It'll be interesting to see.
Well, because it's not time-based, a great finish and just a couple of extra positions keeps you in it for those, as you mentioned, later mid-season, where we're going to see some better sprint finishes, where the Allisons, and the Stephanies and the Rondas are not going to be able to get away. They're just not going to be able to do it in the same way that they can on the climbs. And that is going to be exciting to see, without doubt. So yeah, you mentioned some great matchups as we come to the big finish here. It looks like Wilkinson already across the line. Great to see. We take a peek at Carrie now descending here, as I mentioned.
3 as well.
Falk, yes. And she's doing great work. Got to get that camera down just a little bit. I'll send her some broadcast notes. Hey, headroom, Kristen. No, she doesn't need to worry about headroom. She just needs to pedal her bike like she's been pedaling. And my goodness, it's fabulous to see. So, I'll check in with the broadcast team. Interested to see if we do have a replay. Now would be the time to take a quick peek at it. If we do a replay of that big sprint finish, or any highlights that we want to bring to bear. Here we go. But I checked in with the Nathan Garrett pronunciation, and it's Plugmers. Okay, here we go. Kim Little pushing on the front. Mord trying to catch on to his wheel. He's getting the red numbers. Björkseth is in the lead here. Now there's quite a bit of runway left before these boys are going to take flight, but they're trying to make sure they're in the right position. This may be a little bit too much for Mord here at the end. He's going to have to close some distance, and then he's going to have to sprint, and that really favors Kim Little, who you might notice is wearing a little bit different jersey. It's the Union Jack on his back, which means he's the fastest man. Okay, here we go. Kim Little pushing on the front. Very impressive. Love it. Yeah, and you see this, Frank, as he gets ready to just kick it up and come around him. And then with that Union Jack, it might be worth a few watts as he comes around him at the end. So interesting as we watch that. It looked a little different, actually, on Kim's view. If I remember this correctly, well, first of all, we've got some difference here. Oh, this is Kim getting ready to go here. The jerseys are just slightly different, you'll notice, coming around. Was this the second lap? No, this is the big finish. This is Kim's view, big finish right at the end here. And he gets passed by Mord coming around him on the other side. Kicks it into double high gear here and manages to squeeze by him at the end. It was so close to call at the very end, but you'll notice as he just digs by, it only takes a quarter of a wheel to do it, and he did. Comes around him right at the end, and that is, wow. That guy, right? Great to see Kim having the success that he is. It's too bad that he's such a terrible human being. Kicks kittens and, doesn't pay his taxes and, it does all he'll like throw away a half-eaten sandwich. He's just deplorable and no, he's not. He's actually really, unfortunately, a little bit too nice. But he's handsome and he's talented and popular. And if I didn't already like him, I'd have to hate his guts. Carrie getting ready to finish here. She's a little bit deeper in the group here than she would like to be. Styler going to finish ahead of her. But these are just a handful of points. She finished so high in the previous weeks that she's going to still come in overall second place to Ava Buchholz. what looks to be only 4 points separating them total from this big finish here. Now, those points could shift a little bit as folks are adjusted based on whether they qualify for those points or not. But really, those two are neck and neck, and we can expect it to be a shootout in the coming weeks. If there's anything I've learned over the last couple of years, is you never count out Carrie Conabear. All right. I think we can trust at this point that she's going to finish out this race strong. You can see the rest of these results over on CVRWorldCup.com. Most specifically, you can watch any rider you want with the cycleview.cvr.worldcup.com. And you can check that out whenever you want. We want to give a big thanks to Sarah, Cyclops, right, to Peaks Coaching Group, of course, to Power Tap, also by Sarah, and Garneau, who continue to sponsor this CVR World Cup League. This is the spring season, and it has been a pleasure to talk to you. Well, to talk at you. Frank, any final thoughts before we go? Just to put a little bit of whipping on this package or a bow on this pie?
Well, we continue to expand our technology here at CVR World Cup Studios, and each time we expand, we hit maybe a glitch or two, but we'll be doing that throughout this week. Next week, we've got some exciting new stuff. We'll keep a lid on that, but tune in next week for some exciting new technical aspects to what we're doing in terms of different views and people that we're pulling in and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to that. We've got to do a little bit more testing to make that happen. Cheers are active this week. We've already got people making some money on Cheers, so that's pretty cool. That's always fun to see as well. We'll talk more about that next week as well.
Awesome. Okay, everybody, we'll see you in about an hour and 45 minutes as you get your virtual cycling, real cycling in a virtual world fix. I'm Dr. Chris Haskell. This is, of course, the amazing Frank Garcia, not just the shadow of who he used to be. He's still the same guy, delivering the pain to all around him.
I am much more than the shadow than I used to be. My shadow is about, I think, about 3 times the size as it was 6 to 9 months ago.
Well, I'm hoping between a couple of these races, I'm actually going to get out on a bike, a real bike, outside and tear it up in between a couple of these races tonight. So we'll see you guys shortly. Thanks for hanging around.